The Philadelphia experiment, one of the creepiest, most mysterious incidents in history.
The government says it never happened, but is there some truth to this story involving time travel and teleportation?
Invisibility, force fields, teleporting, time travel, and the USS Eldridge. What do all 5 of these things have in common? If you said the Philadelphia experiment, gold star, you're correct. While it has yet to be definitively proven, the Philadelphia experiment took place in the late 1930s. The Navy had been working tirelessly on a way to make their warships undetectable to underwater magnetic mines by using electromagnetism technologies thought up by Einstein. Upon hearing about the technology and the idea of wrapping warships in electromagnetic coils, it is said that Nikola Tesla himself issued a warning to von Neumann, a physicist working on the project, saying that there was a great possibility the use of the coils might result in a personal problem. Despite the warning, Neumann and Einstein went ahead and decided to test their technology. It worked, but then they tested it again. This time the ship, in this case the USS Eldridge, became surrounded by a green ozone-laden haze before vanishing directly into thin air, and then turning up in Norfolk, Virginia, 250 miles away from where it was previously in Philadelphia. Not only that, but when the USS Eldridge arrived in Virginia, it was actually 10 minutes earlier in the day. 20 minutes after that, or 10 minutes from the ship's original disappearance time in Philadelphia, it reappeared back in Philly. Sounds like time travel teleportation to me.
Some think the Philadelphia experiment formed the basis for the Montauk Project that came later, another secretive government project that's never officially been recognized, but for years there have been rumors about this program having existed. It all supposedly went down at Camp Hero, a decommissioned Air Force base in Montauk, New York. It's said that the project kicked off in the 70s with the government aiming to develop powerful psychological warfare techniques. The base reportedly housed a massive radar tower used to manipulate the human mind. According to some whistleblowers, there was a device known as the Montauk Chair, which was allegedly capable of unlocking psychic abilities. With this device, people could manifest objects out of thin air or even apparently travel through time. The most famous whistleblower is Preston Nichols, who claimed to have recovered memories of his involvement in these experiments. He detailed his experiences in a series of books about the project. The first one, the Montauk Project Experiments in Time, came out in 1992. And the entire series has been dubbed as science fiction, even though Nichols himself claims the books were not written as pure entertainment.
So, what happens to the crew of a ship that gets engulfed in green fog, teleported back and forth, and entangled with the likes of space-time? Well, it's not good. According to eyewitnesses, when the USS Eldridge reappeared in Philadelphia, crew members were suffering from 3rd and 4th degree burns, confusion, dizziness, disorientation, and even infusion. Infusion, as in certain members of the crew had literally somehow become fused into the ship's metal, and some actually never made it back at all. Those infused into the ship died in extreme physical, and one can only assume psychological pain. Others went insane. Which makes sense. I mean, how do you think your brain would react if you were serving in the US military in the 1930s and then all of a sudden the ship that you were on teleported twice to 2 places in 20 minutes, and then also found a bunch of your coworkers infused into a metal frame? You'd probably freak the hell out.
As Hannah said, some of the crew never made it back, so where did they go? Well, it's impossible to say for sure, especially if this ship really did teleport and travel through time. The possibilities here could be endless. When the USS Eldridge allegedly vanished from the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, some think that the sailors could have been instantaneously transported to a parallel dimension, a realm where the rules of time and space are entirely different from our own, and maybe some of the crew is still trapped there, like Captain Kirk in the Nexus, forever lost in this alternate universe. They may have also been flung into the distant past or future and are still, or were still, or will still be stuck there. Some believe the missing crew members didn't even disappear by accident, but were teleported to a secret military base where they were used in other future experiments. And here's a super creepy concept. Could the sailors have been phased out of our reality altogether, stuck in an in-between state, partially existing in our world but unable to actually interact with it? Kind of like ghosts.
The popularity of the Philadelphia experiment is really thanks to two special men, Morris K. Jessup and Carlos Allende, aka Carl Allen. Morris K. Jessup was a scientist with a master's in astronomy and also an author. By the 1930s, he had already published a very successful book, The Case for the UFO, Identifying Flying Objects, and that book had garnered the attention of many extraterrestrial enthusiasts, excited to finally have the words of a scientist back their claims of intelligent life forms living out in space. And of course, one of these excited enthusiasts just so happened to be Carlos Allende, who wrote to Jessup to inform him of the events that transpired on the day the Philadelphia experiment took place. He told Jessup all about the ship's disappearance and reappearance in the harbor, which he had witnessed from a nearby merchant ship, and he even explained how it was possible too. By applying Einstein's unified field theory, the military was able to merge electromagnetism and gravity into a single field. When Jessup wrote Carlos back asking for proof, Carlos replied with more stories of the horrors he had witnessed on the day the experiment took place. The deaths of so many men, one who walked right through a wall, and two who burst into flames and burnt for 18 days straight. Apparently. It was then that Jessup decided he had had enough and stopped replying to the letters. Besides, the US Navy had already claimed that the USS Eldridge hadn't been anywhere near Philadelphia or Virginia that day, so in Jessup's mind, this Carlos guy, whose real name was actually Carl Allen, was probably just some nutcase superfan. Or was he?
Speaking of UFOs, let's talk alien technology. What highly advanced technology could have been used to make a ship teleport and travel through time? Well, maybe they had access to some kind of alien technology which they'd been reverse engineering. Where would they have gotten this technology? Possibly from a crashed UFO, or maybe extraterrestrials had a direct hand in the experiment. This is kind of the first place a lot of our brains go with wild stories like this. I mean, how could humans have manufactured something like this, especially in the late 30s or early 1940s? It's debatable when this case actually happened. Of course, entities from outer space, would have had to be involved. Some claim that the aliens provided not just the technology, but also the knowledge on how to use it, and this alleged partnership could still be going on to this day.
Alright you guys, remember Morris K. Jessup and good old Carl Allen? Good, because here's where things get weird. And by weird, I mean here's where things start looking like maybe Carl Allen wasn't crazy, and the government is working overtime to have him and anyone else who knows sensitive details about the experiment silenced. For a while, Jessup had forgotten about Carl until a year later when two officers from the ONR, the Office of Navy Research, turned up at Jessup's door. Why? Well, they had received a copy of Jessup's book, The Case of the UFO, with annotations written into the margins by what at first appeared to be three different people but later turned out to be just one person. You guessed it, Carl Allen. The annotations outlined the Philadelphia experiment in great detail and even alluded to, as James said, alien involvement in the project. Here's the thing though, if Allen was a nutjob spreading false truths about some kind of made-up government project, then why did the ONR care? And why did they care so much that they had to show up to Jessup's house?
Was the Philadelphia experiment an intentional attempt at time travel? Maybe the US Navy wasn't just trying to render the USS Eldridge invisible, they'd been attempting to manipulate time all along. The idea is that by generating powerful electromagnetic fields around the vessel, scientists hoped to create a sort of wormhole, a portal that would enable the ship to jump instantaneously to different points in history. And what would the point of this be, aside from the pure novelty of it, of course? Well, I mean, the ability to travel through time and alter the course of history, that would make you pretty much unstoppable.
Here's where things get dark. By the time the 1950s rolled around, Morris Jessup's career had taken a major dip. His latest book was a massive failure and he was dropped by his publisher. And so, in a last-ditch effort to regain some kind of notoriety in both the scientific and extraterrestrial communities, he decided to write a book about the Philadelphia experiment, a book that unfortunately would never see the light of day. Jessup began gathering all of the letters Allen had sent to him and doing a serious deep dive into the legitimacy of his claims, and in 1958, I guess he found something. He gave a folder full of information to a friend of his named Ivan Anderson and begged him to keep it safe just in case something bad happened, which, as you've probably already guessed by now, it did. On April 19th of 1959, Jessup made a call to his friend Mason Valentine. During the phone call, Jessup revealed that he had made a breakthrough in his research and that he wanted to meet with Valentine the following day to discuss. Fast forward to that day, April 20th, 1959, Jessup is found dead in his car from carbon monoxide poisoning. There is a hose lodged into his exhaust and washcloths are pressed onto the windows to keep any fumes from escaping. No autopsy is conducted and his death is ruled self-inflicted. While some of the letters between Jessup and Allen are able to be viewed online, the rest of Jessup's research was never found. Either that or the government found it, and they probably killed him as well, like they most likely killed Jessup.
Now, visibility, time travel, teleportation, aliens, all very fun ideas, sure, but what's actually the most likely explanation? Degaussing. Degaussing is a technique used to eliminate unwanted magnetic fields in objects, in this case ships and submarines. Basically, they were trying to make their subs undetectable to enemy mines. In degaussing, the ship's hull is subjected to strong electrical currents or magnetic fields to neutralize the magnetism that builds up over time from the Earth's magnetic field and electronic equipment that's on board. In the case of the Philadelphia experiment though, maybe they were working on something more advanced, a more extreme version of degaussing. Instead of just neutralizing the ship's magnetic field to evade enemy mines or submarines, they could have been experimenting with methods to completely cloak the USS Eldridge from radar detection. This would involve not only demagnetizing the ship, but also manipulating electromagnetic fields to bend light around the vessel, essentially making it invisible. Hope you've enjoyed this mind-altering episode of Most Amazing Top 10 today. We will catch you in the next one.
Cheers!